Ever imagine graduating top of your class, like crushing it, only to hit a wall when you're actually looking for a job?
Oof. Yeah, that's a tough situation.
It's the reality for a lot of grads in China right now.
It is.
And we're using BYD, the electric vehicle company,
Right.
as our case study to figure out why this is happening. We've got excerpts from a Zihu discussion that's like China's version of Quora, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where people are talking about what it's like to apply for a job at BYD these days.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see like what it takes to land one of these jobs in China now, because it's not just BYD, right?
Okay, so let's set the scene. You're a grad. You've got your diploma. You're ready to go. You want to work at BYD. It's a huge company.
Huge, yeah.
But there's a catch.
Hmm.
This year, they're only taking applications if you went to one of China's top-tier universities,
Wow.
the 211 and 985 schools.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big change, right? Like BYD's salaries, they seem pretty similar to last year,
Okay.
but the requirements to even get looked at have gone way up.
Yeah, so it's even more competitive.
Way more competitive.
So it's like they've got the red carpet rolled out,
Yep.
but only a very select few even get to step on it.
Right.
Why this sudden focus on what school you went to?
Yeah.
Is it just BYD?
Well, I don't think so, no. It seems like it's part of a much bigger trend. Like we've been talking about, we've got these Zihu discussions where people are sharing their experiences, and you see it over and over.
Yeah.
It's not just the big tech companies anymore.
Really?
Yeah, companies across the board are using where you went to school as that first filter. It's the first thing they look at.
So are they just trying to create some super elite workforce? Like, what's the thinking behind that?
I mean, part of it is practicality, to be honest. Imagine you're a recruiter, right?
Okay, yeah.
And you've got tens of thousands of applications for one job.
Oh, wow.
Even if you just glance at each one, that takes forever.
Yeah, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
It is. And unfortunately, a lot of companies think the easiest way to narrow it down is to look at where someone went to school.
So if you didn't go to one of these top universities, are you just out of luck? Like, is there any way to get your foot in the door?
That's a good question, and it's something we're going to unpack as we go deeper into these Zihu threads, because some users are actually sharing their experiences trying to navigate this crazy competitive job market, and it's pretty eye-opening.
So it's like your university name is this giant stamp of approval or disapproval, and it's hard to get past that, right?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, are companies missing out on amazing people by being so obsessed with this one thing?
Totally.
A lot of the Zihu users are talking about this, and one of them shared this story about being involved in hiring, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
Okay.
They started with, look at this, over 1,000 applications.
1,000.
Over 1,000 for
Wow.
one position.
I can't even imagine, like, just the emails alone, let alone trying to read through all those resumes.
Right. It's insane. So this person, they're describing how they went through these applications, and it's basically like a series of cuts.
Okay.
First, anyone who didn't go to a top-tier university, gone.
Just like that.
Done. Out of the running.
Wow.
Then they narrowed it down to people who had master's degrees.
Okay.
But even then, they were really picky about which universities those masters were from.
So even within the top universities, there's like another level.
Exactly.
Wow. So it's not enough to just have a degree. It has to be the right degree from the right place.
Right.
And this is all before they even look at experience, skills, anything like that.
It's really about them trying to manage this huge number of applications, you know?
Yeah.
It's not that they're trying to be mean, but they have to do something to make it manageable.
So it's more about being practical than anything else.
Yeah, and this goes back to what you were saying before about education inflation. Everyone's getting master's degrees now.
Right. So they don't mean as much anymore.
Oh, exactly. So companies have to find new ways to separate people, and those ways end up being like even more education, even more specific qualifications.
It's like this arms race.
It really is.
So for people listening, maybe they're not in China. Is this something they need to worry about too? Or is it just a China thing?
I think it's happening everywhere, but China's kind of like the extreme version.
Yeah.
The competition for good jobs is getting tougher all over the world.
Yeah.
But I think the big takeaway here is that the old playbook, you know, good grades, good university, good job, that's not a guarantee anymore. It's way more complicated.
Yeah, it's like you have to start preparing earlier and earlier.
Exactly. And one of the Zihu users actually said, being a good student a few years ago is better than being one now.
Wow.
Like the window's closing.
I know. It makes you want to go back in time and tell your past self to, like, start networking in kindergarten.
Right. It sounds crazy, but it shows how important it is to be proactive and start early. And it's not just about networking. It's about, like, building skills, learning new things all the time.
Because what companies need is changing so fast.
Exactly. You can't just rely on what you learned in school anymore.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It is. And there's another layer to this BYD story, which I think makes it even more interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
So one of the Zihu users, and it seems like they might actually work at BYD,
Yeah.
they said this whole super selective thing might be because BYD already hired a ton of people straight out of university in the last couple of years.
So they've filled their ranks, basically.
Yeah, they may just not have that many open spots this year.
So even if you're amazing, if there's no room for you, there's no room.
Exactly. It's not just about being a great candidate, it's about timing, too.
That's, wow, even more pressure.
Yeah. It really makes you think, are companies missing out on great people by being so focused on where they went to school? And even if you didn't go to one of those top universities, is there anything you can do to stand out?
It's tough, right? Companies want the best, but then they define best as like just what school you went to.
Yeah, it's a tough cycle to break.
So how do you even prove yourself when it feels like the system's already working against you?
Well, some people on Zihu are really pushing back on this whole thing. They're saying talent doesn't come with a university stamp on it.
Right, exactly.
And they want companies to think beyond the diploma, to look at skills, experience, potential, the whole package.
It's true, you can't judge a book by its cover,
Hmm.
but it feels like that's exactly what's happening.
It's a fair point. But there's another side to this, too. Some users were saying, look, getting into those top universities is so competitive
Oh yeah, for sure.
that it already shows a lot about the students.
So it's not even just the education itself, but the type of person who gets in.
Right. These are people who are used to working hard, pushing themselves, going above and beyond.
So companies see them as a safe bet, kind of.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Less risk.
But it's like a self-fulfilling thing then, right?
Yeah.
If companies only look at those grads, how do other people even get the chance to show what they can do?
That's the million-dollar question. And some users are suggesting totally different ways of hiring.
Oh, like what?
Skills-based tests, looking at resumes without names,
Yeah.
even focusing on personality and if someone will be a good fit for the company instead of just qualifications.
So you actually get a sense of the person, not just this list of stuff.
Exactly.
Are any companies actually doing that?
Some are starting to. They're realizing that to have a really good team, you need people with different backgrounds and experiences.
That makes sense. So it's not all bad news out there.
No, not at all. If you didn't graduate from a top university, it just means you need to be even better at showing what you can do. Build your skills, get experience, and really sell your...
Show your value no matter what.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening who's feeling that pressure, that competition,
Yeah.
remember, your story matters.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to tell it. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.